Hi everyone, my name is Lee Savaliksic and I am Executive Director at Pittsburgh Youth Chorus. As we've been staying home and singing, we put together this virtual choir video as a way to keep our singers engaged and working on something exciting while we were all separate from each other. And when the video got out there, I had several colleagues who asked me to walk them through the process, and so we put together this relatively short webinar. The webinar refers a few times to a set of notes that are linked in the comment box below. And I'll tell you just a little bit more about what to expect if you're interested in doing something like this. I used GarageBand and iMovie, which are both free apps on a Mac computer. I was familiar with them. I did look at a few other video editing softwares and decided to go with what I was already familiar with. I will say that if you are looking to get really in depth, for example, I split our screen for our video into 9 different frames, and iMovie only let me do one of those at a time, so I had to export the file and then bring it back in to do the next one. So if you would want to do more than 9 or to get fancy with how those frames are arranged, I would look into a different video editing software. But if you're just wanting to try this for the first time and you have a Mac and can get iMovie for free, this is a great way to go. What this webinar does not do is go really in depth into how to use GarageBand and iMovie. I show you the way around to get the files to where you need them, to make sure that you're lining up video and audio the right way, and basically managing the content and then working through the process. All of the little kind of shortcuts and little bells and whistles that you might find in iMovie or GarageBand, I don't do a whole lot of in-depth work because you can find other video tutorials out there. And really, I just wanted to focus on the process of going from having no virtual choir video to soliciting the video content from your singers to having a finished product. I hope you find this helpful and useful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website to find my contact information. Cheers. So in terms of setting things up, some of the questions that I got were, okay, so what were all of the students singing to? And in this case, this was a choral arrangement, and you could do this if you're a piano player. You could have an accompanist do it. Did record the accompaniment all the way through in one cut, so that the singers would have something that was kind of the master track that everything was able to align to. I also knew that I wanted to use that as the master video that I would attach all of the other videos to, and so I recorded my hands playing while I recorded the audio. Now I did them on 2 separate devices. I recorded the hands with a video camera, and then I had my computer plugged into my keyboard, so I was able to record right in the GarageBand where I'd be doing all of my editing. If you don't feel like you need to have whatever this master track that everyone is listening to as video, you don't need to worry about the video part of it. In this case, I just played the recording. Most of the students just sang along with that. Some of them actually asked for conducting, and then our conductor recorded himself, and I did a video with him recording along with the master piano track. So, and then I also set up a Google form. I wanted to be sure that there was a place where everybody could drop their content that was also secure, so that, like, at first I'm like, oh, like maybe Google Drive, but then I don't want kids taking other kids' videos and doing things with them. And actually an intern of ours said, oh, you could use Google Form for that. So that's kind of part of this content management. And then you're going to send a link to everybody that has the link to the master track, that has a link to the submission, and that has instructions. I chose to, especially since I was dealing with kids that I felt like would interact with a video more than they would interact with text. Love it or hate it. I put together a video instructions, and I give you a link to that in the notes here. So for your Google form, so if you're in Google Drive, and you can create a new Google form here, and then this is what I created. And if I go into edit here, you can just see. I'm already in the edit mode. So I just like quick explanation of what I want them to do. They're uploading videos. I only want one file. I did this as a sample to see, like I did it on my own cell phone to see how big the file would be. And I figured out that it really needs to be 1 gigabyte. And then this was set to something much smaller than 100 gigabytes. So if you click on change, you can change how much the form as a whole can take. I think that it was set maybe only to 1 or to 10, so I had to change that to 100 to make sure that I could have 30 kids submit to it. And then they all get dropped in these responses. So you can see here's a bunch of the files, and then those get converted. I download each of them, and then I just wanted like a happy little place that I could find all of the files. So I created a virtual choir folder. I created a student videos folder, listened to each one, and created a storyboard based on what part the kids were singing, based on who I wanted to use for the solos, where the kids were making entrances. I'll explain the storyboard a little bit more in a second. But basically then after this, to be able to access the videos in GarageBand, you need to have them in iTunes. You're going to come into here, you're going to click File, Import. You're going to find in where you are all of these student videos, and click and select all of them, and then open them all. And it's going to dump them into iTunes, into what's probably going to be called home movies. I'm going to File, I'm going to Import. Here's that folder that has all of my student videos in it. I select them all, I hit Open, and then you can see this music videos just popped up because I didn't have anything before. So now I click on that, and great, now I just have the numbers. So I decided that I was going to number each of the videos, that would make it easy for me to create my storyboard and to just kind of quickly refer to them. I could find them, they're all in order. I knew that I wouldn't have more than double digits, so I put the zeros before everything. I can find them quickly as I'm working, just to kind of save work time. Then I think we're probably, any questions now about setup or content management? I'll talk briefly about instructions of participants, since that's part of the setup too. You want to make sure that when you're talking to the participants and giving them the instructions, they need to be wearing earphones, because you don't want to have the sound of what they're singing to in the room, because when you do the editing, you just want to be editing just their voice or their instrument or whatever. And then I asked everybody to hold their camera landscape. I did have 1 or 2 that did the other way, and iMovie will let you crop it, so that's not a huge problem, but it's just kind of nice. Giving them some performance tips, like I talked to them about like sitting up and breathing well, but I didn't talk to them about like trying to engage with the camera. And you could see watching the video that some students did that, some students didn't. And it was kind of okay in some cases. Like if the students were comfortable with it, great. And if they felt more comfortable kind of singing down here, that was fine. That's totally your choice. Instructions on how to submit, and then this alignment signal, this video explains it well, but I'll just give you a sense of like, this video starts with a little piano, the dun, 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 and I told them to do something visually perceivable as well as a sound, like a snap, or to go so that when I'm lining everything up, I could see on the audio track, I could see that little spike and line it up. And I told them to do it on the fourth little thing on the piano. And then also, it didn't come in handy when I was doing the videos, but maybe it could. And, you know, that's why you see the movies that, you know, take two, ship, so that they have that visual along with the sound so that they can line everything up with later. Oh, what I didn't put in my instruction video was for them to turn pages quietly. Okay, so now we can hear, so this is how I recorded. So this is me, I plugged in my computer to the keyboard. I did a meter recording. Let me turn off the metronome. Oh, so it's set to classic electric piano. If you have like a recent, if you've never used GarageBand before, you might have to download some of the sounds. It doesn't take long. So just piano, there's just one Steinway sound. It's a good sound. So, so there you have that. Now to get the singer's movies in here, you click on your media portal here, and then click on movies. And then you're gonna wanna be in media. That looks like it's my iTunes. Okay, great, here's my home movies. It knew that I was gonna come here because that's where I was last. And I'll start with singer number 1. And up across the top here, you're gonna see, like, GarageBand will actually let you kind of work as a film score, like if you were interested in doing film scoring. So it'll actually put the movie up here that you could follow along with as you're planning your video. You can see there is singer number 1's little snap there, this little blip in the waveform. And then this track is linked to the movie. So ultimately, I don't want to keep it. So I'm going to just have a little bit more space here. Get a new track, an audio track, the vocal track. So you can see audio 2 here, and I'm gonna call that number 1. Because ultimately this track won't let me, like, it won't let me move it. See, I wanna move it, it won't move. So I can't line it up with the piano. So I have to copy it and then paste it into this one down here. And then I'll be able to move this around and it will stay wherever I want it to go. So I don't need this one anymore. I can delete this track. It's gonna say, wait, there's sound here. That's okay, I've copied it. And then movie, I'm gonna remove the movie because I don't need it. I'll get it later. So, so now I've got singer number 1's track here, and you can zoom way in. Right, like I can zoom all the way out and see the whole song in one screen, or I can go way in, where you can see even the piano notes. Oh, I'm like so far in that you can't even see them. There they are. That's how far apart they are. And so I can take that little blip, and I wanted it to be on the 4th. Oh, where was it? I think that's it right there. Yep, that's her snap. So I wanted that with the 4th piano thing. So I'm coming back out here. I'm going to line it up with it. So you can see, like, it's not with the 4th thing. But if you zoom way out, it kind of looks pretty close. But that's why it's really great to be able to go so far in and then say, okay, I want this to be right there. And then she's not singing the solo, so she comes in later. Oh, okay, so what I found out is, even though I gave the directions, you know, I'm working with younger students. She might have actually put that with not the 4th clip, but maybe the 5th, which is when she would have breathed. So let's make that adjustment. Okay, and you can, it's pretty quiet, but you can hear that now she's singing with the piano. And if I needed to, I could zoom back in and get that to line up. So in terms of your audio, you're gonna do this process over and over and over again. You're gonna bring in singer number 2. You're gonna add a new track plus vocal track. I'm gonna bring this down here, keep everything in order. Same thing, copy, bring it down to here, paste. Get rid of this one. Remove the movie. You can see her little blip right there. I'm gonna line that up. I'm gonna get her all situated, etc. And then eventually, you're gonna have all of your things all in one. And then you're going to be able to start making your edits. And in just to give you a little snapshot of what I did, let's see. If you click here, this gives you the controls for each track. Oh, actually here, the info first. What I did for most of them is these are like preset effects. So everything comes in just kind of totally naked audio-wise. And if you click on classic, like if you watch the knobs down in the bottom right corner down here, as I click on these different settings, you're gonna see that those knobs change. Some things get switched on, etc. So what I did for most of them is I brought them into bright vocal. In most cases, I added a little extra reverb, I added a little extra ambiance, and I brought the compression up. I also brought up the low frequency. Generally, it sounds kind of maybe counterintuitive, but with treble voices, often you actually want to bring in more of the low frequency just to add a little bit more girth to their sound, so that they don't kind of sound really mousy and really small when you're dealing with like a virtual recording. So I bring the compression up, turn that on, bring up the low frequencies, bring up maybe some of the mid frequencies, add some reverb, add some ambience, and that's just. I am not an audio engineer, but this is just like a little bit of what I've learned to like just kind of help to make things kind of sound a little bit more kind of smoother and give it a sense of a little bit more of a professional polish.
I saw some other version of someone helping us learn how to do this, and he recommended that you wear one microphone on your ear and one off.
Oh, sure.
Both both headphones are on your ear. You can't hear yourself the way you usually do. So
Yep.
just an
Yeah,
extra.
no, that's a good point. And I didn't specify that. You can see that some of the students did that. They had one earbud hanging in and one hanging out. Yeah, it's always nice to kind of be able to hear, just for sense of muscle memory, hear your voice the way that you're kind of used to hearing it in the room. And yeah, great suggestion. So when this is all done, you're gonna click on Share, Export to Disk, and then it's gonna ask you some questions like, what do you wanna call it? Where do you wanna put it? What format do you want it to be? Export, and then it's gonna, I usually just put it on my desktop, or if I have a special folder, I'll put it there. And then when you're in iMovie, you'll be able to bring it in. Yeah, so you can see here's my homeward bound master. So the other thing, as I try to tell if it's thinking or doing something else, is you're gonna see that this will just create a lot of content on, there it is. A lot of content on your computer, which I noticed in the week that I was working on this, that my computer started working slower. And I haven't cleaned it all up yet. And so being sure that you're like managing all of the data and stuff is important. Okay, so again, I use my piano playing here as my master track. for the video. You can also go to backgrounds, and if I'm not mistaken, you can pick just black, and you can make that, like, it comes in as 4 seconds. I can click on that, and I think that I can edit it to make it longer, or I can maybe just stretch it. Yep, I can just stretch it and make it longer. So you could attach all of your student videos just to the black, as opposed to having some other background. But what I did is, the very first thing that I did is I laid in the piano, I brought in my soundtrack. Again, you can zoom way in to get really detailed using this tool right here, the scale. And I laid in a few things. So I laid in, I wanted eventually the keyboard to transition to the black background. I put in the little mosaic of the students' faces. I did that on Canva, which is a free design software that you can, it's a cloud-based design program, C-A-N-V-A. And then I might have like added the soloist because I could do because I knew that the soloist was going to cut out before the black came in. Because what iMovie will let you do is only put in one picture-in-picture at a time, and I'll show that to you in a second. I'm realizing that I jumped ahead here. Allow me to show you first. Okay, so I got all the editing done. I knew who was going to sing the solos and do all of that. And I broke the song down basically into 8 big chunks. And from those 8 chunks, I created a storyboard. And this, I cleaned up the office. I did that before I cleaned up my computer. And I actually threw away my old storyboard. But this is a little bit of what it looked like. So it was just 2 sides. So I had 4 frames on each side. And this was where I kind of decided on my layout of like, okay, this is you could put the time here, or if you're breaking your song, like verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, whatever, put it here. And then what I wanted the screen to look like for each section. And then just within each one of these frames, I put the number singer that was going to be in that frame, and just made some notes about like what was happening. Like I actually added, I think like these, kind of after, or like the corners came in after these came in, and so I just wanted to do it in one frame, and so I just put a little star to make sure like I knew that those are coming next. So this made the editing process go way faster, because then by the time that I was kind of into a rhythm, all I had to do was look at this. I said, okay, I'm pulling in video number 4, I'm putting it here, pulling in video number 8, putting it here, because it was all decided ahead of time. So here's the base video. This is the first one I did. I dropped in the sound. I had to make sure that it lined up. And so, you know, you're going to want to zoom in. You're going to, you can see that you can kind of see where things are. So what you can do is you can slowly go through, and I can say, okay, where is my hand fall and hit the key? Oh, right there. And then you can click, and you'll see that it leaves a marker there. It leaves the what we call the playhead right where I left it. Now, what I can do then is I could zoom way in, and it's going to leave that there. And it looks like I was even a little bit off because I wasn't zoomed way in. Look, it can get even more detailed. Where did I hit the key? Where does the key depress? Where does, oh, right there. Okay, and so that's actually this second keystroke. And so I can click that, and then I can move this to make sure that it aligns with right where that keystroke is. And I could, you know, I could even zoom in a little further to do that. So you can get really, really specific with where you are in the video. If I want to click and do that, I can actually also go to mark, add a marker, and you can see now that there's this little gray purple thing there, and that will in edit, no, not in edit, in view, if you have snapping on, you can see that if I want to move this video and I have this marker right where I know where I want the video to come in, I can move this and it's gonna click right into that. So that is a huge help to say like, okay, where I want it to come in right, bang, right there, add a marker, and then you can drop in your video exactly where you want it. So where are you getting the videos from? So in My Media, you see how there's an iMovie library. You can set up different events. So I have the Homeward Bound as my event here. If you go to File, New Event, you can create a new one. So, and then if you click here and import, you're gonna be able to bring in your files. I have them in programming, and then virtual choir, student videos. And again, I can do this and I can bring in all of those movies all at once. And then I click import selected, and and then they're all here as options. Then you bring it in, you drop it. Now here's what I learned. I goofed this up a few times. You saw that there was a student right here, right? Where'd he go? He's gone. And he's gone because I dropped a 2-minute clip before him. And that 2-minute clip took priority, and so it actually wiped out where I had the other kid placed. So if you want, let's say you want to bring this other clip in before this kid, you'd actually want to bring him in at the end. And then shrink this down to whatever little bit of it is going to happen before. So I should be able to click and drag that, and I could drop it anywhere up in between these other videos up top. Okay, so let's say, here, I'm going to just say we're starting from scratch here, drop this guy in, he takes over everybody else. Right now, you're going to see that if I hit play, the camera just, like, this new video takes over the old video. But I don't want that. I want that cool little thing. So I have to have this video selected. I click on this video overlay settings, and instead of cutaway, choose picture in picture. Now it gives me this, and it will help me to find the center. I can resize this. I can crop this. So if I say crop to fill, then it gives me the right aspect ratio for what I'm using, and it will help me find the center again on the picture. And then I check, and then it'll be zoomed in more. The effects that I was talking about before, if you wanted to add a filter, you could do that. And right now, I can hear the audio that I dropped in as well as the audio from the clip that I dropped in. So let me get to where he's singing. So you heard his little extra to the pasture. So this is helpful for, you see this line here, I can bring it down, I can bring it up. In some cases when I was trying to align the video, I would do it using the audio. Now, that was problematic for me at one point, and I'll explain that in a second. But what I would do is I would jack up the kids' video volume all the way up so that I could really hear it over my mix and line up their audio with the audio of the track. And then because you've already done all of your audio editing and it's all polished and sounding really pretty, you don't want this anymore. So when it's aligned the way that you want it, then you shrink that all the way down to 0 and you don't need it. Now you're gonna say, why is, like, you know, the video looks really choppy? And that's just because I'm asking the program to do a lot. I've cropped this, I've added a picture-in-picture, I've added a filter, and so the program's not gonna render all of that all in this time frame that I'm working and asking it to do it. But you know, if you come back a little later and it looks fine. So one of the things I put in the notes is come up with a method to make sure that you have a minimum number of exports. So iMovie only lets you do this, put a picture in a picture once in terms of the layering. So what I would need to do is if I wanted to have 9 frames here, I need to double click it, there we go. I actually had to export this video 10 times. So I put this up here, and what I did, I called it in the notes, I called it a pass. So I did 1 pass at a time, and all the way through my whole storyboard, all 8 sections of the song, I put another video, another video, another video. I put every video that occurred in this top left corner all the way through the song. And then I exported it. And then I had a file. So if I come here and I click this little button up here, it says share, and I export it to a file. And then what I can do is, just like the same way that I brought in all of these other student files, I can click import up here. I can bring in the file that I just exported, which are what all of these are. And you can see they're in sequentially progressive versions of completion. And then I recorded some other video in here. And then finally it's done. So now, my issue with doing so many exports was I learned that there's a little bit of fidelity loss in the audio video syncing with every single export. So if I, here, I'll show you an example of where it got really bad. You can probably even see it a little bit here. So watch the soloist lips.
In the quiet, misty morning.
Now that's not too bad because that's only my 4th export, but you can tell that his lips are just a little bit behind the audio. They were perfect when I first set them there. And I got about 7 exports in and I was like, oh no, this is terrible. This is gonna be the worst project ever because I wasn't accounting for this whole time. And so what I found out that I needed to do, what would have solved it from the get-go was after each export, so let's say, okay, let's just delete this. Okay, so I'm on export number 2. And let me zoom in a little bit. And I'm noticing, like, if I probably would notice it even less. But what I could do here now is go back to grabbing my master audio. And before I do anything else, now here's the trick. Don't align the master audio to the old audio. That's what I did. And then it's not in sync with the video on each of the exports. I have to go back and I have to, again, I've got to just zoom in and I've got to watch carefully and just make sure that I'm happy with how the audio aligns, with how the new audio aligns with the video. So I go to the old audio, I shrink it down, I go in and I listen. Well, right now it's not aligned at all. I have to trim off some of the fat here at the beginning. and then go in and make sure that I'm happy with it. If you do that before your next pass, before you add all the videos for your next export, I think that you should avoid the syncing problem that I ran into. What I eventually did is on my very last one, all the way down at the bottom. Actually, let me come here. You can see, oh, look, here's our soloist from the beginning. I actually came in and re-put, like, he's already in this first video that I dropped in. I came and I put him in, or her in, I'm sorry. I came in and put her in again because it was such a dramatic syncing phasing error between the audio and the video that there was no way that I could go back and redo the whole thing. I had just put in way too many hours. So I came in. You can see that the piano isn't perfect. It's a little off. But I kind of like split the middle. All of the videos that I put in towards the end were fine. And then I re-put in the soloist, and I re-put in like my first pass, which was actually the middle screen. I made sure that all the middle screens were in sync, because that's kind of where everybody's eyes goes to. And then I, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it would have been had I not gone in and done an 11th export actually at the very end. Okay, so again, there was a lot. We talked about if you want to do the picture-in-picture, you've got to double-click this guy. You come in here, you pick picture-in-picture. You can also do fun things like split screen. Now you're seeing her twice because this is the new one and this is the old one that is existing in the video that I dropped in. Picture-in-picture will let you move the new one around. You can crop. You can also do the Ken Burns thing. You can actually do the Ken Burns with a video. So we've got it on Ken Burns. Just in case you're not familiar with Ken Burns, let me just see if I can show you let me make it more dramatic here. What it should do is pan as it's playing.
Stop their singing, and the sky is clear and bright.
Yeah, so you can see that it's slowly going to the corner of the screen where I put this here. So that's nice with photographs. That's kind of like Ken Burns' thing is, the photograph panning across the screen. You can do it with video too. So like I could actually, that's where it's ending. I could actually start with the video all the way there and then make the ending one the whole picture so that you have a slow reveal of who's singing. Maybe you wouldn't want it to be that slow for that particular long of a clip, but you could do it over the course. I could take like the first 5 seconds of the clip and do that, split the clip, and then have the rest of the clip be the whole thing. Yeah, and then just managing your exporting and making sure that your syncing is in line all the way through.
When you were exporting the audio to iMovie, there were 4 choices for what format to save it in.
So yeah, and that's where like Lauren, you actually might know more about that than I do. Or Robert, you might know more about that than I do. ACC is specifically an Apple file, and since I knew that I was going to be putting this directly into iMovie, I figured like Apple's going to be happiest if I keep it in Apple's format. Wave is generally like a very friendly, like you could send Wave anywhere.
Is there a maximum number that you think would work? I mean, I know Eric Whitaker's team did thousands, but what about the rest of us?
So I'm hoping to do this again, and I'm hoping to do it with more than 18. I told my singers for this first time through, I told them that I would take the first 30 usable videos, knowing that I probably wouldn't put more than 9 on the screen at a time, and then just, do the math, they'll get how much screen time. You know, one of the things that I thought about as I was doing the storyboard is like, I want every kid to be seen during a chorus of the song and during a verse of the song. And then, you know, if you're going to do 9 panes maximum, their screen time just shrinks as you get more kids. If you want to do like an Eric Whitaker thing where you've got everything, you're going to want a different software other than iMovie, because even just doing all of the exporting will get really, really labor intensive, and you don't need to go through that.
What was your total amount of time spent?
Including recording the instruction video and like recording the piano part myself and everything, probably about 35 hours. And it got way faster. Like by the time I was making my third or fourth pass, I got really good at zooming way in and finding exactly where I wanted the video to go, editing the video right to that spot, adding the marker, clicking the marker in. It all just got a lot faster, but it was definitely slow to start. Thanks so much for watching, and again, I hope that this was helpful. If you do end up creating your own video, I hope that you share it. I'd love to see it. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can do either at our website, www.pittsburghyouthchorus.org. Thanks so much.